What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.
You want a healthier lifestyle, but how do you get started? Then stick with it by listening to the Fitness Revolution podcast with Shay Sandifer, of course. Your journey to greater well-being starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Coach Shay with Fitness Revolution. I am so excited today because we have a guest today. We're back with guests. And this is something very important to me. I'm always talking about equity and women entrepreneurship. As a woman entrepreneur for the last 14 years with organizations like we're getting ready to bring in, I could not be where I'm at. So what we're talking about today is NAWBO. So if you guys don't know, I'm on the board of NAWBO, which stands for National Association for Women Business Owners. So we help women businesses get to the next level. I'm also on the marketing committee. So when we strategized about how we were going to talk about our gala coming up November 14th, we thought this was a perfect way to get US Bank, who is one of our number one sponsors for our wonderful gala this week, involved and talk about with the one and only Greg Cunningham, who's the Senior Executive Vice President and Global Chief Diversity Officer at US Bank. Please give us a warm welcome to Greg Cunningham.
Hi, Shay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited. I met you years ago in a great setting at Houston Whites. I met you there before there was and he's doing great. But I remember meeting you there and understanding the energy you bring and the diversity you bring to our Twin Cities. So I'm excited to be able to sit down with you today and talk about what made you get involved in NAWBO and why you're supporting entrepreneurship.
Well, NAWBO was a really easy program and organization for us to partner with, Shay. Small businesses are the engine of our economy. And one of the fastest growing communities of entrepreneurs is with women. And so when we launched our access commitment to think about how the bank could really sort of make change within communities, we thought about one of the most important pillars to that is making sure that we can help support small businesses and entrepreneurs. And the work that NAWBO is doing is so aligned with our work. And then more importantly, one of our partners and one of my partners that we've been in business with for a really long time is being inducted, Sharon Smith Akinsanya, and the work that she does at the Ray McKinsey Group. I have the honor of presenting her and presenting her introduction into the NAWBO Women's Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. Yeah, she's in the Hall of Fame. So that's amazing. So congratulations to Sharon. I know she does a lot of work with your organization and the bank and gets people of diversity and color to be involved, right? So let's really dig into that, right? So right now, as we know, the number one thing that women entrepreneurs need is access to capital, which is hard, right? So there's been these obstacles over the years between, credit, or they didn't have the knowledge, or they didn't have the statements, right, that said, this is what I've been doing. So how are you guys bridging that gap with these entrepreneurs to make it easier for them to gain access to capital?
Shay, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the fundamental gaps is the ability for women entrepreneurs and all entrepreneurs for that matter to be able to gain access to capital, which is why when we launched the Access Commitment, which was a long-term sustained commitment to close wealth disparities, there were 4 pillars. There was access to wealth, there was access home, there was access to capital, and there was access for small businesses. So one of the things that we've done is we started this initiative. There are a number of them, but one of the most fundamental is we created these business, what we're calling business access advisors. And all across the country, there are 17 of these really talented and smart bankers who we've hired. And their fundamental job is to make connections with small businesses in the community and help them understand how to have a banking relationship. Because I would argue, Shay, that the ability to, and I've never been an entrepreneur, so you all have to sort of fact check me in the chat or whatever you want to do after this. But I would my point of view on it is getting access to the capital and the financial resources is actually the outcome of a lot of other really hard work that has to come before you actually can walk into a bank and partner with a bank to get those resources. And what our access advisors are focused on is how do we help these entrepreneurs build the right technical capability? How do we help them build the right infrastructure? How do we help them create the right networks? How do we help them think about marketing, finance, HR, like all of the things that are so critical to running a successful business? And then you go to a bank and partner with the bank to get the resources that you need in order to grow and scale your business so that you can create jobs and build economic vitality in your community. And so these access advisors are all across the country. The one here in the Twin Cities, his name is Tim Farrow. He sits in the West Broadway branch of US Bank. And we're very proud of the work that those business access advisors, but that's just one example of something that we're doing, Shay.
I love Tim. He's great.
I hope you ask me again, because there's a couple other examples of things.
No, I will. But I love what you're doing. I've been watching you guys over the years, and I love that you're building programs, right? Because it's the lack of education to understand. It's all about relationships, right? They call me kind of the queen of networking and connections. I always kind of know a little bit of everybody, right? And as you broaden that, that's what gets you to the next level. And as I've worked with so many women entrepreneurs, they're like, what is the key? And I think you guys are really building that, right? It's very frustrating for an entrepreneur to try and figure out how to get 10,000, where that may seem a drop in the bucket. It may change the trajectory of their lives by getting that 10,000, And so besides the access, or maybe dig more into the access that you guys are doing that levels them up to the next level.
Yeah, I'd love to, because there are two other things I wanted to mention. It's not just the programmatic stuff of appointing somebody who is creating those relationships, because I don't care what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a large corporation, you're a small entrepreneur, you're a mid-sized company. I don't care what your scale is. Every one of us is in the business of people. Every business is a relationship business. And, in addition to those access advisors who focus on that part of it, we also actually have to deliver the products that small businesses want and need. And when we a couple of years ago, we acquired a bank, Union Bank. And one of the things that we were able to do through that acquisition was to gain access to a product that Union Bank had that we brought to US Bank, and it's called a special purpose credit program. Because how many of you listening to this podcast as small business owners have walked into a bank or some financial institution and tried to take out a loan or develop a partnership, and the answer was no? And typically it's because of the credit box.
Right.
And what these special purpose credit programs have allowed us to do, Shay, is expand the credit box. So we are now able to have more flexible lending terms, and we're able to sort of customize financial arrangements that really meet many of these small business owners where they are. So that was an important development for us, because we needed to have a way that we had a little bit more elasticity in our ability to extend credit. So that was one thing that we did.
I love that. Because 14 years ago when I started, I worked for US Bank for a little bit.
Sure.
And that was actually my last corporate job, to be honest. And so these resources were not available. I started, like, when they say grassroots, I started grassroots, right?
Yeah.
I started with, and I keep it real, I started with $3,000, I was going through a divorce. I had $3,000 in my bank account, but I knew I had a different purpose, right? Yeah. And now what I try and get women and other entrepreneurs involved in is, like, now they have programs, now they see and they value what you're going to bring. As we saw during COVID, right? Without small businesses, our whole economy almost crashed, right?
Pretty much.
It was like, okay, well, you guys are really running this, right?
Yes.
But we need people like you to help us get to the next level. So have you seen in the last 4 years that relationship build and grow in different ways that you never seen?
Oh, for sure. And I think on many levels. One, I think there is no question that we learn so much from talking to entrepreneurs like yourself and your listeners, because we don't have all the answers sitting in the ivory tower.
Right.
Like we actually have to listen and learn from all of you, what your needs are and what you need from us. And that's why things like that special purpose credit program, but also, understanding that not everybody is going to be in a position to do business with US Bank, but it doesn't mean that they're not deserving to get those resources that they need. So we also, through our access commitment, we actually fund CDFIs that we can refer small businesses to. And you're familiar with CDFIs, these
Yes.
community development financial institutions, which start out with much more flexible lending terms and can provide that technical assistance at a hyper local way. So we spend a lot of resources funding those CDFIs as another way to help and support small businesses.
Love that. Love that. Right now, what are you really focusing on, right? As we talk about NABO, and I know just working and being involved, there's services, there's products. Is there a specialty that you guys like to get more involved with as far as one of those two as a product over a service?
I think it's always a balance of both, because I think the needs are um, the needs are very broad of what small businesses need. And I think there are a couple of things that I would say that we're focused on. I think number one, and the most important in this equation, Shay, is our ability to build trust in community.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think, I think in communities of color in particular, and particularly in the Black and Hispanic communities, banks don't have, all banks and
Right.
institutions in general don't have the best reputation, and rightly earned. I mean,
Right.
we all know the history. We all know the history. And so I think for a lot of us that are somewhat newer to the banking industry and trying to make change in the banking industry, it's an exercise in helping our organizations go from truth to reconciliation, is understanding the role that financial institutions have played in creating these disparities, which is why we decided to focus there after George Floyd's murder. When we thought about how we were going to support a social justice movement and how we were going to make that integral to our business, we had to think about what our business was and make sure that we brought our core competency as a bank to helping to solve some of these problems. So number one is building trust. Number two is making sure that we have the tools and resources that small business owners want and need, and that requires us to listen and learn and then respond. And then the third and the most important one is to have real conviction around the belief. You have to have some conviction, you have to have some stamina. You actually have to be in it for the long term and know that the benefits sometimes for these investments happens over time. And that's a different kind of commitment for a financial institution, but it's critical if we're going to see the change that we all want.
I love that. I think commitment is a key word, right? Trust and commitment. Do you trust your banker? Does your banker trust you and your initiatives? And then the commitment for long term, right? Because I think that's really the big thing, right? Like people, the one-offs, people like, oh, we gave you 10,000. Well, that's great. Like kudos. Thank you. Appreciate it. But we know that's not going very far.
No, it's not.
You need dollars. And I think, especially in the Black and brown community, until the last 6-7 years, we have not been able to talk about that freely, that we need dollars. We need you to invest in us. We need angel investors. We need, people to invest in us. We need banks to invest in us. We need businesses. And so there's kind of been shame around that, and that you guys have built this program that's like, we want you to enter in this. We want to build with you so you understand that we're here for the long term, because 3, 4, 3, 5, 6 months isn't going to work, right?
No.
We need 5 to 10 years, right? That trajectory, minimum.
Well, you said it well earlier. It's what I believe. Again, I'll admit I've never been an entrepreneur. I look forward to being one someday. But what I believe is that you don't need a bank you need a banker.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is you need someone who actually sees you and
Yes.
understands what you're trying to do and understands your unique circumstances. And so many of those relationships tend to be very transactional. And so what we're trying to do is not only demystify that process, but it's not just about the transaction, it's about, are we in partnership together? Because
Right.
we're both invested in, I'm only, the bank is only as successful as your, as your success. So it needs to be sort of a shared responsibility, and it needs to feel more like a partnership than it does a transaction.
So I'm going to ask you this. So with this, platform that you guys have created, are you teaching these entrepreneurs, right? So not everyone's going to be ready for you to like, let's go, right?
Correct.
Some people don't have the knowledge or the skills, or they don't know that they're supposed to have certain things in place. Does that program include that for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, not only does it include sort of our ability to help our partners and small businesses with some of the technical assistance. But we actually have part of the program, Shay, is we actually help people with the whole certification process for women and minority-owned businesses, like walking people through that. And then we have a partnership with the University of Washington, their MBA, their business school of entrepreneurship, where we actually send a number of entrepreneurs every year to the University of Washington to take entrepreneurial courses. And because it takes all of that, like you actually have to help with the nuts and bolts of how to run a business, and we can't assume that everybody has and comes to the table with that sort of expertise.
Love that. I love that because I think, as I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? I coach them. They're brought into my farmers market. Some years, I'm dealing with 75 to 100 entrepreneurs, right? And I hear capital, but what I really dug into and to, piggyback on what you said is how to scale your business, right? And it's usually because if they can't scale, they don't know, or they don't have the tools to take it to the next level. And I love that you're building that, because you can't leave people out on this ledge and then think like, oh, next year they're going to be up and running, because I've seen
Yeah.
that. They've got a great product and they've got a great vision, but they have no clue. And that you're doing that, that's got to feel great in your heart, right? Because I know banking is banking, but for you to get out there, I see you're at all events, you're attending stuff, you're meeting people. You've also changed the way you probably look at business, right? Like you're like, wow, these people are doing this, and they've only had I'm saying 10,000. I've seen people take businesses with $1,000. One of my businesses, Greg, I started with $500 and turned it into a $500,000 business. But it took $500. I took $500. Now, I don't recommend that.
Can you send me that business plan?
Yeah, that's called grit, as my mentor said. She said you had grit, and I said I had grit.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. But definitely you have to have a plan. So anyone that's listening to this, understand that you need a plan, right? You need a business plan. You take that idea, put it on paper, and then you bring that to the next level.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Shay. I think that's such great advice. And I think the other thing that I would add to that is you not only have to have a plan, but you also have to be able to clearly articulate your vision. And that's what I found sometimes trips up entrepreneurs, is if you can't, in a really simple, it's almost like what we call the elevator pitch, right?
Yeah.
You got 30 seconds or less to tell somebody what this is, and to convince them that it's a great idea that they should invest in. And I find that so many people, they have an idea in their head, but they really struggle to be able to articulate it. So I would say to all of those listening and entrepreneurs who are on that journey, keep these things in mind. The simpler, the better. Keep the idea really simple, and however you describe it today, I would bet that you could say it in 20% less words and be a lot more.
Yeah.
So keep it incredibly simple. And if you can't explain it in 20 seconds or less, then there's still some work to do.
Yes. And that's it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's you've got 30 seconds and people attention spans now are like
They're
bing,
gone.
bing, bing.
They're gone, especially now.
Right?
Now.
In the middle of you talking, they've picked up their phone and they're like,
Yeah,
well, I gotta send this email. I gotta call my mom. I gotta send dinner. I gotta pick up. It's actually, and it's you have to have empathy, right? Because you're like, this
Yes.
person's put their heart and they thinking
Yes.
like, I'm gonna come to Greg and I'm gonna show him what I've been putting in for 10 years. And you're like, okay, well, that's great, but I still don't know what you do, right?
Right. Right.
But it's real, right? And I
It
even,
is.
I do this, and even for myself, I had to learn, I can be long-winded because I have so much passion, right? And I was like, they want to learn about that later when you're sitting down with them for drinks or for dinner. But at that moment, you've got 30 seconds to tell them why they should even talk to you for the next level. And that's very hard. It's really hard to do that. So
it's really hard. And I would think about it, for all of the listeners, think about how we all are familiar with going to the theater and seeing a movie.
Yes.
And what you want to be able to nail is have a really impactful trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Your trailer has to be so compelling that person wants to learn more. And I think it's not only important in the verbal and how you verbally communicate the idea, but I think the even bigger mistake that people make is when they put it on paper and they send you like this 10-page PowerPoint slide on most of the time you can do it in 3.
Right.
And you can explain the idea, you can explain what your ask is, and you can explain what success looks like. Like if you keep it in a really simple concept, if people want more information, they'll ask questions, they'll ask to follow up. What you want to do is sort of capture their interest and their passion for the essence of the idea. It's just like a movie. Did that trailer capture your attention? You go, oh, I'm going to go see that when it comes out, right? Like that's the reaction you want.
You're trying to capture their heart, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what I realized over the years in talking to people and being being a mentee and being a mentor was, I was told this before by a great mentor. I'm going to say who my mentor is, Frederick Blockton. He's a great mentor, right?
Yeah.
And he said, people buy into your product or service because they like you and they believe in you. You have to, and that's what I tell entrepreneurs. Do you believe in your product? Do you believe in what you do? Because that's what's going to come off. Like you said, you can have a 20-page or 20, page PowerPoint. That means nothing. I've never had a PowerPoint to this day.
Good for you. Good for you.
You know what I do? I say, let me have a tangible conversation. Do I have a business plan? Absolutely. But I tell them, what is that going to do? Why would US Bank want this? Why would any organization, any banks, right? Or anybody want to be involved? And it's because because I believe in what I have, and then they do. And I tell everyone, that's what you have to do. You have to go into this with your heart. If you go into it, and obviously we need money to make things grow.
Yeah.
But do you want to do this? Because at the beginning, there is no money.
No money. And
a lot of us at the beginning, if you left corporate or you did this, I'm not saying everyone should leave corporate, just so you know, I'm still good friends with corporate, but because you need that, right? But also, to get to the next level, you have to understand that you can't chase the money. You can't, you got to follow your dreams, and that's what's going to build your empire. So Sharon won this year. So Sharon's kind of your right-hand person. She's your buffer. I'm gonna call her your buffer.
She's a buffer. She's
the buffer. She's your buffer.
That's a better description. Much better.
Yep. She's your buffer, and she helps you, partner with organizations and businesses that she feels aligns with US Bank. What does that look like for anyone that's looking for that?
That's such an important and such an accurate description, Shay. Sometimes, as you talked about corporate and you talked about what that experience is. One of the things that I always fear, and you talked about how we run into each other out in community quite often, that is so important to me because I don't ever want to get so disconnected from the community that I don't one, either represent the community in those boardrooms of the fifth largest bank in the country.
Right.
And two, I have to have somebody who has their finger on the pulse and who can provide advice and counsel not only to me but to the bank. And Sharon does that in such a great way because she's so plugged in so many ways, and she has such a deep relationship across all sectors of our community. She's such an incredible asset to have because she understands the objectives of the bank. She understands the objectives of the community, and she knows how to bring those two things together. And she can provide me and the bank as a whole with tremendous advice on how we can do the work more effectively. And so it's a really good example for all the entrepreneurs out there. When you think about what is your value proposition, what are you offering that no one else can offer or no one can do better, or you're actually filling a void? And what I think that Sharon and her whole team at the Ray McKenzie Group, they do is they fill an important gap for us. It's that gap between, running the fifth largest bank and staying deeply rooted in community. And how do we bring those two things together? She's able to fill that gap for us in so many ways.
I love that. I love that. And that's why she's making Hall of Fame with our novel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's next for US Bank in partnership with community and entrepreneurs in 2025?
A lot more. I'm so excited about so many initiatives, the continuation of our access commitment. And out of that, Shay, you will see a really deep and focused investment here in the Twin Cities in particular, a strategy we're calling a place-based investment strategy, which allows us to focus resources in a particular neighborhood over time in order to really sort of drive and measure specific outcomes. It's a strategy we used in Chicago some time ago in the Pullman neighborhood. And we invested over a 10-year period. We invested about $100 million. But the best part about that is not the money that we invested. The best part about it was after our investment, there was a whole influx of other investments. So there was an additional $300 and something million that came from Amazon and Method Labs, and all these other businesses came and invested in Pullman. And what we saw crime rates go down. We saw unemployment go down. We saw graduations grow up. We saw home values go up. And the entire community changed as a result of us coming in and having this focused investment, because it catalyzed all this other investment from other companies. And so you're going to hear a lot more about our place-based investment right here in the Twin Cities, in Minneapolis specifically. And that is what I'm most excited about, because it's not only going to help small businesses, it's going to help that entire community. It's going to help nonprofits. It's going to help the entire community as a whole.
I love that. I love that. I love you're moving the needle forward. You're looking through the lens of other people that maybe don't have a voice, and that you're creating space for them to grow. So kudos to you and your team and your whole organization for understanding the value you'll bring to them in the near future. If you could say one thing right now that you would leave for an entrepreneur that's going to watch this, because it's going to be all over, what would you give them as advice as into moving into 2025?
Here's my slogan for 2025, Shay.
Oh, okay. I'm
going
ready.
to give it to you. I'm a preview.
Am I the first to hear this?
Yeah. I'm going to preview it with you. And see how it lands.
Okay. I'm ready.
What I would say to all of you is don't run from your lived experience. Your lived experience actually is your superpower. So lean into all of the things that have happened in your life, good and bad. And that is your point of differentiation. Lean into that, learn from it. Your lived experience is your superpower. Lean into it. That's how you're going to move forward.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of what Oprah said to me when I met her in Italy 20 years ago. She said, tell your story so no one else can tell it.
There it is.
We might as well drop our mics.
I can't mess with it.
You gotta drop your mic with me. Greg, you gotta drop your mic with me. That's a mic drop.
No doubt. There it is.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to say thank you so much for being on this platform with me today. Thank you for the work that you're supporting throughout the U.S., because it starts here and it spreads. Thank you for believing in Black and Brown folks, right? Thank you for believing in women entrepreneurs as we grow and taking us to the next level with your platform. You are a true voice and an inspiration to all of us. And congratulations, Sharon, for being a Hall of Famer for NABO. You know, I love being a part of that organization and taking women business owners to the next level. And I look forward to seeing and working with you in the future. And I love that if anyone's listening, listen to what he said. This man is very wise, and he is creating a platform for you to excel to the next level. And this is our time. So as always, I am Coach Shay, and inhale the positive, exhale the negative. This is Fitness Revolution, and this is Greg Cunningham. Thank you.
Check back next week for more on living your healthier lifestyle and share previous episodes of Shay's podcast with your friends. Log on to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
COVID-19 cases are on the rise, and peak flu season is almost here. Save time and get the updated COVID-19 vaccine and your flu shot at the same time at Hy-Vee. Schedule your updated COVID-19 vaccine and flu shot online today, or just stop by any Hy-Vee pharmacy whenever it's convenient for you. No appointment necessary. Plus, when you get your flu shot at Hy-Vee, earn a 20-cent fuel saver. Your Hy-Vee pharmacy is here to help you and your family stay healthy.